kids that can get part-time jobs, and we'll be able to provide all those jobs. We do that in our company right now in San Jose. We got 6 students from San Jose State working with us, and being able to learn how you go in the field later on when the hard knocks come in. So,
Okay, thank you, but I think we're getting off track right now.
Yeah.
So let's get back on track. When this action is taken over, this may be in your best interest. Let's hope so.
We would appreciate it, and I'm all for, and I hope that you give us a very good consideration, and I hope that
Thank you.
the public will like it.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other comments, public? Commissioners?
I have to be honest and say that until 6 o'clock tonight, I thought I had to recuse myself from this, so I'm not as prepared as I would like to be to make a decision.
Okay. Well, let's tell you what, let's call for action. Chair calls
So
for,
you want to postpone it for you could research it a little more?
I don't like to feel like I like to put things in proper order. I feel like we're rezoning and then allowing houses, when actually a lot of times it seems the rezoning is, the impetus is for development. So I wish I knew more.
well, what happens here is that this should not exist.
The current situation as it is should not
Should not.
exist.
It should have been zoned accordingly for the houses in front, and urban growth boundary to say to follow the city limit line, or wherever they want to go. That wasn't done, and it should have been. I mean, there's no reason why you have a, half-acre house, half-acre lot, and say for minimum 5-acre zoning. So the guy's going to be building on a non-conforming lot. You zone that accordingly, get an average and find out what the zoning should be. Because see, you can say R1, and maybe it's 7,000 foot, but you can make an R1 and you can specialize it and say, okay, we're going to have R1, but this is a special zone, R1 8,000, R1 9,000, R1 1 acre, and it's still single-family dwelling. So it could be its own zone, but as it is, I mean, to have a small lot and say you're going to have 5 acres, I don't have 5 acres, and you can't tell me I can't build on it. So let's put that portion where the houses are into the zoning. The convenient part here is that you've got the fault going right behind it, and it has its own setback. So those lots are even reduced in size in terms of structural use. Granted, he's got the area. I don't want to have him have an R4 and say, okay, well, I happen to have 2 acres back here. I'm going to put all my units right here. And that's what happened if you didn't take care of your zoning. But still, I don't think, agricultural zoning is proper for that side of the road, especially when you have all these other houses just to the south of it. You've got houses, and all of a sudden say, hey, you guys are 5-acre minimum. So somehow they should have brought that thing, this line should have been done, whatever line they want to use, when they did the general plan and the zoning.
And I think that was the staff's position. It was really an oversight when the 1998 general plan took place. That's
Are all these houses there already built on the sewer system?
yeah. Al Ribeiro and his mom, and Dave Medeiros and his secondary unit, Kamamoto's, Zuniga, and the Lopeza. They're.
So let's call it administrative oversight in 1998. And what we've been doing in this commission is we've been doing everything right the second time. So if you'd like some more time, I have no problem. But this is one of those things that we might do it right.
Do you agree? What are your thoughts?
Georgiana?
Yeah?
I
Would you like
had
more time?
I had a whole lot of comments. What we heard from Mrs. Lauza was mainly not relevant to this issue, isn't that right? I don't even know where that is in all of this. And in the reports, we referred to a mistake. I
Administrative
It was
administrative
not-
oversight.
It was not a mistake, except consistency in the general plan was not found, that error was not found and corrected.
Like I said, administrative
Yeah.
oversight.
And-
That's nice,
And I
politically
would like,
correct way of
in
saying.
any of these further, if we go on,
To correct all those.
to correct all of those and make it clear that, that was it. If Vanda would like more time, then I would be encouraged to vote to continue this so that she could study it.
Would you like more
If she
time?
doesn't need more time,
Is there a reason why we wouldn't want to do this? I'm in favor of consistency
Okay.
and correcting.
correcting errors that were made in that plan and not wait any longer for the next plan.
And it doesn't sound like we're going to be opening the doors to development because it's not really developable land.
And most of these folks aren't looking to develop there.
And I see a blue line over here on the edge, sort of a wiggly. Is that San Juan Creek? Does San Juan Creek go through this
Yeah.
property?
Yeah. Now, everything beyond the line that I drew is, east of that is in floodplain, and that's what delineated that line.
But the uses of a creek could be walking paths, all
Oh, yeah,
kinds,
right,
all
yeah,
kinds of good things that
just-
we're looking forward to
We
trying
just-
to join
yeah.
the other side of town to bike paths. There's a
But the-
movement in the whole
Yeah.
county, a
But-
reach movement
But on the
to
other hand,
join.
we didn't want to take any of that land that's in the floodplain and zone it R1.
So that's
Or-
why it's out of the urban growth.
Yeah, so we only wanted to move the urban growth up to the floodplain line.
So they're only taking this one section.
Right.
This
Just
is- so that-
taking this, all the rest does belong to the property,
Somebody.
to somebody. It's in the city limits. Is that part of the creek in the city limits?
The portion of the creek is in the city, yeah, limits, yeah. Goes right down the middle of it.
And it's not to be disturbed and so forth
Yeah.
by
No.
any of our zoning.
But you can't.
No.
Can't- Okay.
And the back part of that is going to continue to be agriculture. Everything east of that line will be, continue to be in agriculture.
Or the creek runs on their property line all the way to the back.
Yes.
Yeah,
mhm,
at the back.
And that's not city limits way out there.
Yeah.
It is?
It is in the city
Oh,
limits?
really?
So that would become
Agriculture.
Agriculture, yeah,
or
yeah.
a use that those of us who are in favor of this whole creek episode uh, could work with.
Okay,
What are your thoughts,
the
Pat?
chair is looking for action. Motion for action.
Are you good with it, or you want more time to,
I think I'm good with it.
I'm good with it.
I haven't heard.
Well, then one of you can make the motion.
Because all you're gonna do is get, on these two little slivers here, the most you're gonna get 6 houses out of them, because of the earthquake fault.
That and the floodplain are delineating things.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
We have no
got.
control
When
over
they come in
that.
front of us, we got to say, so setbacks, all the stuff from the earthquake fault and all that stuff.
Okay, and let's
You'll blame us, but that's
look
okay.
at how that's agendized.
I just want to point out too, on the wall, there's a map with, you see some circles. Roger has drawn those circles to show the radius around which, for instance, I can't speak. But I discovered tonight that I can speak on this.
Yes.
So,
Her 300 foot from her house, her 300 foot comes
Yes,
to the
like-
center line of First
Like
Street.
this radius right here, she's not in that development over here, so
yeah.
she could put it on.
Okay,
So we're completely happy with the CEQA document.
well, let's see what we've got here.
We had comments from the public regarding,
Public, we had electronic comments, we had public comments. I don't know if we had written comments, but
the area we are considering is not actually under agricultural,
It is agriculture now.
it is agriculture, it's not actually under
A portion-
production,
A portion of it is in agriculture
Right.
now, yeah.
and is in production.
Yeah. And then the 6 homes that are there are outside the agricultural productive.
So the action you would do tonight, the amendment of the plan for the extension of the urban growth boundary to be contiguous to the existing urban growth boundary line of the city and will result in designating existing residential properties to a zoning district consistent to the current uses. Then, the amendment of the 1998 general plan for the change in the land use designation from agriculture to low-density residential will have less than a significant impact on the surrounding area because they currently exist as residential properties. Makes sense. And then the amendment of the 1998 general plan will not adversely impact ag lands or increase the potential for vandalism, trespass, or the creation of public or private nuisance on private or public lands. Then the amendment of the plan will not result in degradation of water quality. It will not result in reduced public access, provided that access does not infringe upon private property rights. It will not result in an increased requirements for restriction upon ag practices or prime farmlands. It will allow uses that will be properly related to other uses, transportation facilities, and other public facilities in the area, and will not cause undue environmental impact relating to noise, odor, and pollution. It would extend the urban growth boundary and it encompasses an area that is not prime farm productive lands. And then the amendment of the plan will not, encompasses properties that is within the city limits and has been provided urban services for an extended period of time. Those are the findings that we'd be making if we take action on this. That's what I'll be. So, if anybody wants to take the first one, we have a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Juan Bautista approving the initial study and negative declaration for amendment of the 1998 general plan of the urban growth boundary and land use designation of 11.7 acres of land from agriculture to low-density residential, and recommending to the City Council the same. So that is the initial study and the land use designation change. So that's one resolution. Who wants to take that one? Or do we want to continue? That's what we need to find out. So Chair is entertaining an action. We can all go home.
I don't want to make the motion.
Regarding
Okay.
regarding the environmental impact report.
That's the first one.
That is what you don't want to make a motion.
What number is this?
If we do it.
25.
25, okay. That's the
So,
initial study and the land use designation change on the general plan. That's number 25. Is there a taker on this? Somebody want to suggest that we all go home?
we can't do that.
Oh, yes.
We've got too much to do still.
Then we should start doing it.
All right, so which page are you on?
What do you think? We got to do something.
Yep, we do.
Are you on page 7?
I'm
have a
looking
page.
at the EIR because that's what we're talking about.
That was
aren't we?
the
The city's
Initial
initial
study
study
and negative
and negative declaration, so
of
we don't have to
environmental
have an EIR.
No. So that document, which you have reviewed for tonight, is taken up in Resolution 25.
And the typo on page 1 of the notice of intent to adopt,
There's a provision.
it's 240.
Well, no,
It's
that's,
the APN.
I don't know,
Yeah,
but,
this is in the initial study.
yeah, we,
There's a typo. It
Okay.
says,
but we're not, okay,
okay, but we haven't looked at that, so how can we adopt it?
read it at
here?
home.
Is there any urgency into doing this tonight? Why don't we just continue it then?
We give you more time to look at it.
I think
Read
that
it.
that I would be more comfortable if
Okay.
Banda had time to read the the negative declaration before we make that statement.
Okay, then I move that we continue to the next meeting.
Is there a second on the motion?
I second.
Roll call vote, please. Motion to continue to the next meeting, next regular meeting.
Commissioner Rivera,
Aye.
Commissioner Gallardo,
Aye.
Commissioner Garrett,
Aye.
Commissioner Franco,
Aye.
and all members of the commission being present, the motion as stated by the maker passes 4-1. Commissioner Rivera is absent.
Okay. The next one is 5D. Consider pre-zoning of 1.63 acres of land situated at 600 La Suenne Drive from agriculture to public/quasi-public, APN 012-140-027. The owner is the city of San Juan Bautista. It's obviously outside the city limits. We do want to get into the city, but when you annex it, you need to be ready. And so what zoning district would we put it into? This being a well lot, public facility seems to be the appropriate zoning district. Staff, any further on that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I view these as kind of house cleaning. For a long time, we found that our well number 3 and the reservoir and 1/3 of the west portion of the cemetery was outside the city limits. They're subject to taxation. We felt that it's time to clean these up and get them annexed. Before we can annex it, we have to pre-zone them into the proper zoning to when it does annex, come into the city, it will reflect that zoning. And we've identified for the reservoir site that would be public land.
You're not doing the cemetery right now, right?
No, it's
No,
Just
no,
that
this
piece of it?
just
this is
just
next.
one.
This is next.
One at a
This is
time.
the first one, yeah.
This-
So
this is the-
the very first one we're asking for is to pre-zone the 1.63 acres of the reservoir site at the end of Lawston Drive to public designation. And the resolution there would be 25.
Okay. Do we have any public comments on this one? To pre-zone. Again, this is just part of the annexation process, but you have to be ready. They're going to say, you're going to take it in, what are you going to do with it? And it's going to designate it public facility because it is a city well, a well lot. Is there any comments on this from the public? Do we have any?
No, I have no speaker.
Okay, so
And,
commissioners, any comments?
And just to let you know, everybody has spelled Lawson as L-A-U-S-E-N, but the correct name is L-A-S-U-E-N.
La Suenne,
No comment?
Spanish. Okay, the chair, since there being no comments from the public or the commission, chair entertains a motion for action, and this would be resolution
25.
25.
20.
I move that the planning commission approve the pre-zoning of a 1.63 acre parcel of land situated at 600 La Suenne Drive, APN 012-140-027.
It is 140.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, call for roll, call for vote, please.
Commissioner Rivera,
Aye.
Commissioner Gallardo,
Aye.
Commissioner Garrett,
Aye.
Commissioner Franco.
Aye.
All members of the commission being present, the motion as stated by the maker passes 4-1. The Commissioner Madera is absent.
Okay, like I said before, we're just, all this stuff probably should have been looked at before, but we're doing it right the second time. Okay, next. Consider the pre-zoning of 0.78 acres of land situated at 651 San Juan Hollister Road from agriculture to public, quasi-public. The owner again is the city of San Juan Bautista. And this is a well lot?
This is well lot number 3. It has been there since 1967, and it's in the county. We pay taxes on it, and for any activity that we do, we have to go to the county to get a building permit.
And this is where the treatment plant would be?
And the new water treatment plant will be situated on the site.
And so once it's annexed, we wouldn't continue to pay taxes to the county?
Yeah, we would eliminate the taxes and eliminate the building permit fee.
Okay, that's...
Again, doing it right the second time.
I had a question about who owns parcel or lot 39, on which,
Right behind it,
yeah, on
That-
which
that's-
lot one is?
12.5 acres, and that was owned by Mr. Vaccarez, and it was purchased by Dale Koch
Okay,
of Koch
Coke
Farms.
Farms,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, any comments from the public?
Yeah. John Freeman. It's just a simple question. What water treatment plant? What new water treatment plant?
We have purchased part of the 2008 infrastructure project. The city purchased the equipment for a pellet water softening plant,
Oh, that one.
and it's sitting on site since 2010. It cost the city $992,000. We would like to get it built on
Start
the
using
site
it.
and get it activated for a water softening plant that will
I
take
agree.
the hardest out.
I thought it was already in the city, so I'm sorry. I'm
They
sorry.
ran out of money.
And it's bigger, so we're paying more taxes on it.
Yeah.
And we did not get the grant to go ahead at this
Yeah,
time.
but
So,
we're
good idea to have.
we're gearing up to reapply.
Good.
Okay, there being no comments, commissioners have any comments?
No comment.
Okay, there being no comments more from the public, none from the commission, chair entertains a motion for action.
Will this be 26?
Yes.
I move the 2014 number 26, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Juan Bautista to approve the pre-zoning of a 0.78 acre parcel of land situated at 651 San Juan Hollister Road, APN 012-190-038.
Call for, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, is there a call for a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Rivera?
Aye.
Commissioner Galarte?
Aye.
Commissioner Garrett?
Aye.
Commissioner Franco?
Aye.
All members of the commission being present, the motion as stated by the maker passes unanimously, 4-1 with Commissioner Madera's absent.
Okay. 5F, consider pre-zoning of 18.07 acres of land situated at 375 San Juan Hollister Road from agriculture to industrial, APN 012-190-022. The owners are McDonald's King Dominguez. And we're looking for a resolution to,
Again, this 18 acres was brought to you. We adjusted the urban growth boundaries back in April of 2013, and they're requesting that it proceed with annexation to pre-zone it into the industrial. As you recall, when we recognized the weakness of our land use categories in the city of San Juan Bautista, we only had 1% of the land use designated for industrial, and that would be George Diaz's parcel, as well as a triangular piece of Kurt Karasaki.
I have to step down off of this one.
Yeah.
Because I'm partners with one of the owners.
oh, okay. So the clerk will so note that Commissioner Garrett has recused himself.
And in examining the lack of an industrial space, we've had a number of inquiries where agribusinesses wanted to develop some satellite offices and agricultural business parks in San Juan, close to the San Juan Valley, where they do a lot of shipping over to the Salinas Valley. And we don't have really the area or the facilities to accommodate that. By pre-zoning this thing into the industrial, it'll bring it in so that it can be annexed and be made available for some type of an agricultural business park.
So Koch Farms is to their
East.
east, and to the west is,
The 7.5 acres is the Autoboni,
okay.
and we left that into agriculture. It was in the county as AP zoning, agricultural productivity, minimum 5 acres. It will come into the city as agricultural 5 acres.
Okay. So it'd be appropriate if it were an ag business industry.
Yes, exactly.
related,
And,
yeah.
and that's one of the things that is on there is in the new general plan. Once it's adopted, we will be developing, and we have 27 new zoning categories that we'll be bringing you in front of it, and I think I submitted a report there last year where we showed where we wanted to get new zoning categories, and we had agribusiness, A1, agribusiness A2, you know, in different categories, as well as commercial, residential, hillside, flood zone overlays. So it's very comprehensive, and we're working on that.
What is the current use of that property?
Current use is that they're using it as agriculture. Yeah.
Okay. No comments from the public, no comments from the commission? Any more comments?
No.
Chair entertains a motion for action.
It's your turn, Vanda.
I move that we approve Resolution 2014-27, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Juan Bautista approving the pre-zoning of an 18.07 acre parcel of land situated at 375 San Juan Hollister Road, APN number 012-190-022.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second, do we have pre-zoning to industrial?
Industrial,
Yeah,
correct.
shouldn't we say that?
Yep.
Where do we say that?
Whereas, the last whereas,
The whereas in the last one, and that
determine
makes
the
it very
pre-zoning
clear. Okay, I can
to
second
classification
that.
of aye. Okay, call for roll.
Commissioner Guerrero,
Aye.
Commissioner Galarte,
Aye.
Commissioner Franco.
Aye.
All members of the commission being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes 3-2. Yes, 3-2.
Okay.
One recused.
No, the two would make
3-1
it, they didn't oppose it, so it'd be 3-0-2. 3-4, none against. Yeah.
Absent and recused.
You shouldn't come back yet, because aren't we gonna, the next item?
Yeah, he's got to recuse himself for the next item, Dave.
You know, this is getting tough when we don't have commissioners, you know?
But I
Yeah.
think he needs to come up here to recuse
To say
himself,
that.
doesn't he? Pat,
Maybe just go to the podium, Pat, and say that you have to recuse yourself for the next item. And why? Oh,
Okay, we're going to do the cemetery now.
Now I gotta step back.
Right. we have to
Okay,
recuse
well,
ourselves.
let me call the item here.
Let him introduce the item, then you can recuse yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to go until we.
Well, he's
Okay, consider, let's see,
G.
pre-zoning of .8, wait a minute, is that the right?
G? It's G.
G. Oh, consider pre-zoning of 2.72 acres of land situated at 65 Monterey Street from agriculture to public quasi-public, APN 002-280-001. The owner is the San Juan Cemetery District. And like the city manager told us, the property is split and we're paying taxes on one half and we're not paying taxes on the other half, so let's be consistent and not pay taxes.
Well, I think in this one here, it's not so much the taxing basis, it's the
Permit.
multi-jurisdictional, when something, vandalism happens in this portion, the sheriff's department has got to treat it as a sheriff, and when the other portion, it's treated as a
Police.
a police report on the city, and so it gets complicated, and so again, it just as a housekeeping mechanism to get the whole cemetery into the city limits, and then it's under one jurisdiction so that we don't have multiple jurisdictional problems.
Sounds good. Is there any comments from the public? Any comments from the commissioners? Okay, this is really a housekeeping item.
The public service available is that the water is the part of that recycle system, isn't it?
Yes,
And it's all been certified and they're using it?
it is certified to use, but we have not got the clearance from the Regional Water Quality Control Board yet.
When will we be getting that?
We've been pushing for them and everything. It gets down to where the problem is they wanted monitoring wells, 4 for each site, very costly and testing, and we've appealed that, and we're trying to get some relief on that to say, wait a minute, our groundwater is so far below the surface, the chances of it contaminating just by applying it for lawn is very minimal, and we're asking for some sort of relief of smaller monitoring wells rather than the deeper ones. So.
Okay, no comments from the public, any comments, no more comments from the commission? Chair entertains a motion for action.
This is 28.
28.
I move this resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Juan Bautista approving the pre-zoning of a 2.72 acre parcel of land situated at 65 Monterey Street, APN 002-280-001.
Is there a second on the motion?
I'll second that.
Call for the vote, please.
Commissioner Guerrero,
Aye.
Commissioner Delarte,
Aye.
Commissioner Franco.
Aye.
All members of the commission being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes 4020. 3020.
No problem. We work as a team here.
Now Pat can come back and say.
Okay, now we have H. Consider pre-zoning of a 0.87 acre parcel of land situated at 1149 San Juan Highway, that's First Street, from agriculture AP to agriculture. APN 012-100-012. The owner is D. Christopher and Sons LLC. Again,
I need to recuse myself because I live within 300 feet.
you do. Okay. So what happens here is that Christopher Ranch is in the
A portion
Mason
of
is
the
city limit.
Christmas Ranch is outside the city limits, small triangular piece, and we want to bring that in so that it matches basically the boundaries of the subdivision of the one parcel of 28.3.
so.
And it will be zoned agriculture.
Okay. We have a quorum. We have a different quorum this time. Is there any comments from the public on this one? Okay, no comments from the public. Any comments from the commission? No
Pat?
comments from the commission?
I've been thinking.
Chair entertains a motion for action.
I actually had just a quick clarification question. Here, Curtis,
This piece here. Christian.
wasn't this addressed a couple of months ago, or was that a different sliver that was
It was
addressed a few
It was
months ago?
addressed by the city council as authorization for petition to annex. Yeah. Now
Okay.
we have to pre-zone it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. No other comments? Chair moves for, entertains a motion for action. And this would be 29?
This is
29. Do I hear 30? Do I hear 30?
This is enough.
There's no motion for action?
Pat, are you going to? Well, you've been sitting back there doing nothing.
Gotta take your
This
turn.
is part of that housekeeping.
Yes, ma'am. It's just a piece that's just
Therefore-
outside.
And I'm clear about where it is. It's just right next to the San Juan Highway. I move for resolution number 2014
29.
29. The resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Juan Bautista approving the pre-zoning of a 0.87 acre parcel of land situated at 1149 San Juan Highway, APN 012-100-012.
Is there a second on the motion? And I would ask staff to make that correction, 0.87 acre in the title there. Okay. Just a second? Yeah, second. Okay, call for a vote, please.
Commissioner Guerrero, Commissioner Delacte.
Aye.
Commissioner Garrett,
Aye.
Commissioner Franco.
Aye.
All members of the commission being present, the motion is stated by the maker passes unanimously 3-2-0. 3-0-2-0.
You got it. Okay, now, thanks for bearing with us, folks. Those are the public hearings that we had to have because they involve a lot to the people who applied for them. We now have some discussion items before the commission. There is a branding report. Staff, please.
All right, this is something Georgiana asked for, I think, 3 months ago, 2 months ago. You wanted a more thorough description of what place branding was, and I had this ready last meeting, but you weren't there, so I had them continue it, so here it is.
Okay, and I've read it.
And you've read it, okay. Did you want me to go over it, or did you want to just discuss it?
If any of the public want to hear more of it. Otherwise,
Just give the highlights in.
Okay, so this is directly related to the wayfinding project that Matt was working on with the county, and the idea of branding came up, which is place branding is the process of image communication to a target market, basically. And we sort of wanted to look into why it's necessary, and in relation to the outcome of Prop 13, you have cities competing against each other for tourism and dollars and sales taxes and everything else. And so the report just sort of describes what branding entails. There's companies that offer place branding for a cost. So I looked into some of those things as far as brand principles, brand personality, brand positioning, key messages, all the sort of different parts, and whether it would make sense for us as a city to invest money in something like that versus doing it ourselves. And sort of what came out of it is that we think that we could do most of this ourselves, other than sort of the graphic design portion, because for that if you want it to look professional, staff skills are not quite up to professional graphic design skills. So that was the conclusion, is that we can get together with commission members or community members or whoever to put together all the messaging and the sort of ideas of what we want to convey and colors and everything else. But once we get to the point of getting, like, say, a logo, like all these ones in the report here, we probably want to enlist the help of a graphic designer. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any comment from the public on that?
Yeah, real quick, I would just suggest, I think Matt hit on it, is maybe a citizens group or some sort of group
Good
thrown
idea.
together. Yeah.
Or strategic plan committee, maybe?
there's
Without
policy.
government communications, or?
I just wanted, John Freeman, 22 North Street, I just wanted to add that behind Vonda's head, there's a poster there that is designed by my wife and Valerie Eglin and
Mary Ann Steger,
Yeah.
Thank you.
with the help of maybe Norm.
Yeah. And so that kind of is, those posters are now on view at the 101 rest stops going to Paso Robles. Fort Bradley, I believe it is. There's one both on the north and the south side, and there's these large kiosks, and they're like hexagon, six-sided, and there's posters for Cambria, and there's those posters for San Juan. So it's kind of we can build on it. That's kind of a low-key, low-cost version, and I'm sure we could even do better.
Thank you. Okay. Next item. Commissioners, did you want to say anything before I go on?
No, I've said before, we've talked about this for years, but I think we're making more progress than we have before, and I hope we see it to fruition.
Good enough.
And I can bring this up, I'm on the Government and Communications Subcommittee of the Strategic Plan Committee, so we can set that up as one of our meetings and get advertise it to the public and start this process. I mean, that group's being very productive with many things like the Youth Commission and everything else right now, so I think that'd be an easy one to sort of add into the mix if you guys would like us to.
Okay.
So.
Next is Municipal Code Section 515 relating to parades and public gatherings.
All right, this one came up because, speaking of Strategic Plan Committee, we've had some complaints about Hardin and their special events on their back patio and noise, and whether we do permits for that and all kinds of stuff. And we're going to be getting a conditional use permit application from the Hacienda de Leal as well. That's looking to build a banquet facility for up to 500-something people, and so the idea of big, public events outside is going to be rearing its head there, as well as what's going on currently at Hardin. So we thought it would make sense to possibly look into this municipal code section and the enforcement of it, because we found that we do have the rules on the books as far as action related to, you know, permitting events like this, but it's not currently being enforced. So there's no action required necessarily, but I did a sort of mocked up version of what one of these permits might look like if you wanted to start permitting events like that. Or we could, with the conditional use permit of the Hacienda de Leal, actually write it into their conditional use permit so that we wouldn't have to do this every time. And then say for Jardines, we could give them the option of, you know, doing one of these permits every time, or doing a new conditional use
Wonder which
permit and
one
having
they
it written in so they wouldn't have to. So
Yeah.
we just
I opt
thought
for
we
the
could
second
start
one.
thinking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that second one would save you guys a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Jardines has, but has Leal applied for liquor license? Or
They've made the application for a conditional use permit and site and design review. And but if they apply for a liquor license, they go to the ABC, and then it comes to us first.
And then in our municipal code, we would want them to comply with 510 for food establishments.
Yes.
Don't they
yeah.
want to
and
serve
that's
food?
part of why they are coming with a use permit is that if they serving in the courtyard, then they have to get a use permit to allow that.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
for beer and wine.
Well, food, it says, and everything. Now, beer and wine is a separate issue that through the ABC, you know.
Don't we have to do a finding of public convenience and necessity? They still require
Well,
those?
the ABC sends us a thing, and we have to respond back to them.
But don't we have to have a public hearing on this also?
Oh, yeah, there has to be a public hearing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's-
yeah, conditional use permit will require a public hearing, and we've advertised that already. Yeah, in the,
No, but the actual, as I recall, after the Watts riots, they passed that new law that says, in effect, because what happened at the Watts riots, after they cleaned up everything, they came back and said, you know, all these bodegas that got burned out, they were all drug centers, drug dealings. And there were so many of them in a small place. All you had to do is set up a liquor store and you had a perfect place for people to come in. So they said, okay, every time somebody applies, they must go to their planning commission or whatever body and have a public hearing, a public convenience and necessity. And if the public said, you know, we don't want liquor sold in that spot, it's too close to the school, church, or whatever, ABC would be in a position of denying it in favor of the public concerns. And that was used as a tool to clean up a lot of areas. I've had to deal with several of them. Again, this is, even if you had a restaurant that had been selling alcoholic beverages for years, public convenience and necessity says, wait a minute, we've had too many problems out here. We don't want that. And ABC would not issue a permit.
until you go
So
through that hearing.
that's why the planning commission, like I said, is the guiding rule is the input station for public response to other agencies too. So, any comments on
Another
it?
comment on parking. I've noticed that Jardines is promoting more weddings and I guess having more weddings.
Yeah.
Maybe they could build into their contract with wedding parties that they have a shuttle for parking, maybe to park at Abbey Park or
And
somewhere.
it is becoming a problem on weddings, yeah, because
Yeah.
we had a lot of complaints.
And I'm sure Leal has plenty of parking, so that's,
That's a good
Yeah,
idea
he has, I think, 97 parking spots, yeah.
for 500 people.
But it wouldn't be enough by, what do we
Um,
compute, like in a 40 or 50?
We computed on the new banquet and everything, and he would be short, so he's going to have to develop additional parking spaces.
Private property in the city limits.
It would be in the city limits.
So now that the VFW is in,
Yeah,
will
but it's always been
it
in
be
the
part
city.
of this?
That's one of the things we should probably be discussing because, you know, large events have always been associated with churches and various facilities like this. And they're private and you know, we've already issued permits for these buildings to have parking and whatnot, and you know they're going to be doing stuff. So how far do you want to go with them?
Hasn't the city, VFW been in the city limits, right?
It is now.
Yeah.
They are in the city, yeah, and they have parking in both the front as well as the back.
Yeah.
Back, yeah.
And I think I did an analysis there, and I think they could get something like 65 cars in there.
Yeah, we did one.
Because
I think
all
it was
the space-
75 cars.
We can go across
75,
the street
yeah,
and
right.
park and drive to
Yeah.
the cemetery, and there's a lot of.
All of the space in front of the VFW does not belong to them for parking. Is that right?
I didn't know.
All of the space that we see in front of the VFW is not their property, isn't that right?
No,
Parking area?
that's correct.
There's just one little corner that doesn't belong to Nyland,
Island, yeah,
on the front part of it.
in the front.
It's not divided. If they had a fence
That's
or a
that portion
barricade.
between the old city limits line and Monterey Street.
Where there's no curb and gutter.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's one of the concerns of the commission. That is an entryway corner, and you can see what it looks like. And so part of our long-term program would be to how we're going to clean that up. You know, if you have permits, curb, gutter, sidewalk, automatically, design control, you only get one shot to make a first impression, and you don't want them turning around going the other way.
For a good example, that the gas station, when they passed that gas station, they were supposed to put the curb and gutters all the way around it later on in a later date.
If you have that permit, we can get that now.
That was,
We have been looking for it ever
Oh.
since.
that's right.
And
And don't allow them to park in the driveway the way they do.
These are the problems that, you know, I won't knock former commissions or administrations, but this commission has tried to do it right, start one, and then do everything else right the second time for them. But we're trying to clean up the city. If it's one lot at a time, one curb, gutter, and sidewalk at a time, but that's what our charge is. Okay, how do you want to handle this? You want to think about it, talk about it?
Like I said, no actions required, but this will be coming, the Hacienda de Leal
Oh.
conditional use permit will be coming up on December 2nd for
Okay.
review by you.
Okay.
So we just wanted to get you thinking about some of the issues that are going to be involved. And how that might apply to other places, like you said, the VFW, the big events at the Mission, you know, Hardines. There's a lot of
Quinceañera.
areas that we're going to have to probably apply this to if we start applying it there, so just,
Well, the mission's been around for 200 years, so I think they probably grandfathered it.
If we're doing anything about the context of this whole,
Well, that's a
four-page
first
thing?
cut. That's a first cut for them.
I would encourage leaving out the word "you." I don't like,
You?
it's the second person singular and/or plural.
You'd rather have
And
y'all?
I think that,
y'all.
I think it ought to be more direct and not folksy.
You don't want y'all. Okay. No, you a good point. It shouldn't be personal. It should be just the facts, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Just remain this for that?
Well, yeah, no, I cut out a whole lot. This was an existing community event permit, and so I just sort of cut
Modified.
and pasted, yeah.
Yeah. Is this what we
But that's the way
use?
to do it.
Yes.
This is what we use, and this is how folksy we are with everyone?
Yeah, no, this is the existing, I didn't
I'm
write that, that's
sorry
not
about
my,
that.
yeah.
I mean, that's too nice.
I mean, we don't need all that wording too. I mean, I could really pare this down to just the basic information. I mean, we
Yes.
don't need to be all,
Sounds like
Exactly.
a sign
Well,
code.
it's
Sound like a sign
confusing
code
too,
issue.
community
Yes.
event and then private property. So then why are we asking?
well, there was a big one that had all events, and then there was a small private property section. And
Okay.
so what we were trying to do is pull that private property out of that and make it its own thing.
Yeah.
But then
Yes.
Or at
within
least
this-
entertain the idea of it.
In this first box, we have for nonprofits, blah, 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 no street blockage,
Yeah.
street
Well,
blockage of Second Street. Well, then we're not talking private property anymore.
No, we're talking, this is mostly for parades and all those people
Yeah,
who
and
come
this
and
is,
gather
this is where
and
we
have to
took
eat in
the
the street.
application from. and
Yeah, yeah.
We're gonna
So-
still have to
yeah,
fine tune it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be the public property.
But I mean,
Street
you would
blockage.
still, like in the case of Hacienda de Leal,
Yeah.
be taking up places on
This is all.
public streets, you know what I mean, as part of your event. So
Yeah.
there's still gonna be like
Okay.
spillover, and Hardines obviously doesn't have any parking,
Right,
so
at
they're
all,
gonna be
yeah.
taking up public
Yeah.
streets for, you know, so we just need to think about those types of things. And that, like I said, really, really rough draft on this, so we can do lots of work with it, so.
Good start.
In the interest of income to the city.
I'm sorry, just for the benefit of our videotape, would you mind coming to the podium?
please come to the
you-
podium.
Yeah,
Come up here.
you just need to identify yourself.
And smile.
Otherwise, again, I hear parking, parking, parking. Does the city has land set aside for parking that people can pay for parking? And then that would be a nice source of income. I mean, I just keep hearing this parking.
There has to be a place to do it in. That's the problem. A lot of the properties are public, or private rather.
The school owns property,
The park
The
owns
church.
property.
yeah.
This is the only state park in California that doesn't have parking.
And
They
it's-
There
do,
is
right on
also-
our streets.
There is also not, these streets don't have any place to put money in it. That's also,
Yeah.
I mean,
No, we have
I'm
a-
just thinking because
yeah.
I hear the parking.
Yeah.
No, we have a
And then I
committee.
hear money.
Money, yeah.
We have a committee on this. The Planning Commission sent a letter to the city council asking them to get the mission, the school district, the park service, the city, who else is missing?
Property on 4th Street.
And get all these together, because all these are the people, all these are the agencies that have parking, areas for parking. And we got them all to sit down twice now. And so they're working on sharing or making areas available that were not otherwise available. The mission has already come through. The school buses now can park, not public buses, but school buses now can park on mission property there in their effort, because let's face it, when 90,000 people come to your site, but they also go to the state site. So the state should be providing some parking too. But again, the mission has already started the process, so it's a matter of finding places to park. And somebody with a lot, they could, like you said, $10,
Yeah,
$20.
and Rogers changed some of the areas already where they put parallel parking in town, which helps a lot now. So I think you're gonna, a couple more spots, right?
Yeah.
So we're working on it. Okay, next item then. You might review that thing, because some of those items will be coming up for the next meeting with the application. The FPPC, the federal, no,
Fair political
Fair
practice.
Political Practices Commission legislation regarding conflict of interest. Who wants to talk about that?
Okay, so this was a very confusing issue. Staff received an email from Shauna Friels pointing out that there was this section of the FPPC legislation, 18707.10, public generally, small jurisdictions, effects on officials' domicile. The way it was presented, it sounded like an exclusionary piece of legislation. And she mentioned that David Medeiros might not be able to have voted on the 28.3 acre proposed Rancho Vista development because of this. So we started looking into it, and it was confusing because there's a section of it that says the official's property located on a lot no more than 1/4 acre in size or not larger than 125% of the median residential lot size for the jurisdiction. And because he owns a lot that's more than 1/4 acre in size, it sounded like he'd be disqualified from voting on pretty much anything in the town because we're such a small town. So I started looking into it, and it turns out it's not exclusionary. This is an inclusionary piece of legislation. So what happened was, according to the Political Reform Act, you have to go through these, I think it's five questions to see if you have a conflict of interest. Are you a public official participating in making, or influencing a governmental decision? Do you have a potentially disqualifying economic interest? Is the economic interest directly involved in the governmental decision, and what is the materiality standard? Reasonably foreseeable economic impact on your investment, and then whether you can distinguish yourself from the public generally. According to those five things, Commissioner Medeiros did have a disqualifying economic interest because he has an investment in real estate worth more than $2,000 that is within 500 feet of the property subject to the government decision. And it was reasonably foreseeable that the decision could increase the value of that property by more than 1 penny, the 1 penny rule. So technically he had a conflict of interest. Then you would apply this section 18707.10, but when you do that, his property is more than 1/4 acre in size, so he can't utilize this exception.
Oh.
Whereas, for example, tonight, the reason why Vanda could participate is that she does qualify for this. So even though she owns a property within 500 feet of that 11.7 acres that's worth more than $2,000 and could possibly increase by more than a penny, she is indistinguishable from the public generally according to this section.
So does that mean that I can participate in the Christopher Ranch project?
No.
No, because you're within 300 feet of
You're,
it.
Oh, okay.
you're within 300 foot of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's 500 feet other, yeah. Yeah.
No,
Now
that's
you
what
see,
that's for.
now you see why planners have to go to planning school just to
Yeah.
learn how to understand this stuff.
And
No, because I initially thought that too, and then I went, oh wait,
Oh,
but
yeah.
she's within 300 feet of that one, so.
so,
Yeah.
and any other person, and you've made the circles for all of us.
Mhm.
And then when we change next month or a month after,
We'll have to draw some new circles.
we get some new circles.
Yeah.
Getting dizzy.
When do we retire from this group?
The new council will be sworn in December the 16th. And then it's subject to the new council, and when they want to appoint, you continue to conserve until they will make the appointment.
So the result of this is that.
You might be here 4 more years.
Well, you're here for 2 more anyway.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm just not clear about how they appoint,
Oh.
you know.
They said it usually happens within 30 days, so.
Yeah.
But, so we also learned that the FPPC doesn't usually make a decision regarding eligibility if a decision's already been made. So technically, we don't have to redo this, but just because we're trying to do everything, letter of the law now in particular, we're going to go ahead and bring that decision that you made back on December 2nd. We noticed it again. It'll be good to go. And both Medeiros and Gibber have to recuse themselves, and then we'll redo it, basically, with just the 3 of you. And you all 3, because it deals with the general plan amendment, it has to be all 3 of you voting aye on it in order for it to pass, because it has to be a majority of the full commission, not a quorum of the people present.
For example, like I'm on the committee for the cemetery. Christopher Rance, can I still vote on that? Because I'm the
If you can't,
commissioner on
we're
the cemetery.
dead in the water.
Huh? I might not be able to do it.
Is that right?
What?
If you say yes to his question, then we're dead in the water.
I don't know why that
No,
applies.
he's
3-2.
a board of directors of the cemetery, and Christopher Ranch has, is within
border
300.
it.
They
Yeah.
border it and within 300 feet of it.
Oh.
Yikes.
So the economic interest would have to,
Yeah, but it's not a domicile.
it's not a domicile, you know.
Yeah.
Depends on how you figure
This
it.
this particular,
Roger,
I
it
wanna make
depends on
sure.
how you,
So
how
far.
you define it.
Yeah,
you're not living at the cemetery
Temporary
yet.
housing or,
when you're buried, it's a different point.
Yeah.
and depending on the philosophical, it could be permanent or temporary.
The judgment, what judgment happened?
So did you have to get a permit from the county for the new columbarium? or-
Because we're in our own district. We got our own commission.
Oh,
We're District 2.
okay.
Most of it,
All of it now.
all of it. We went clear
Even
into
the ones in
how,
San Juan, yeah.
the
That
ones
was-
in
That was
Hollister
just pre-zoning.
belong?
No, that's a
I
different
got a problem.
private cemetery.
What's that?
No, no.
Anything District
I may
2
not be here
takes in
December.
all San Juan Cemetery.
Well, I may not either.
All the
I mean,
taxes
yeah,
come
I
to
know
us.
All of them,
And
because I
District 2.
understood
Want to
that
continue the meeting to,
that there
Anything
was a
that's built in
section of
district-
Hollister that didn't qualify
I
to
didn't
come
know
here to
that.
be
Anything
buried.
that if you're not District 2, you
Wait,
can't.
for what?
We're talking about the fact that,
I may not be here December.
Well, nor may
I've
I.
got a family function that
oh.
is not negotiable.
So you won't be here
On,
December?
on December the 2nd?
Yeah. A situation I just can't get out of.
So we'll only have really 2 members.
Yeah, that won't work.
Skype? High tech.
Well, we could.
For these
re-advertise it
issues,
for,
For
a
these
special
issues,
meeting.
Skype,
in
I
the
don't think it's gonna work.
Probably not.
How long will you be gone? I mean, could we do a special meeting that week or a different
Later in the week, yeah.
Later in the week?
Mhm.
But you've already sent out,
Well, it's been noticed, and so we'd have to renotice it for the new date. The next meeting would be, on the December 2nd, would be the 9th.
Which we have a strategic plan committee meeting that
I
night.
think we need a new calendar that's
Yeah.
not a Union Bank calendar.
Yeah, yeah.
Next year.
We should. No, I guess I didn't say that, did I?
The 9th, yeah.
Well, that's the strategic plan
They
committee
left
meeting
so,
16th, yeah, that's right.
on the 9th.
9th, yeah. Mhm. That's the strategic planning committee meeting, yeah.
So that we have it clear to the public what it is that's coming back because Dave Medeiros.
Yeah, so it's the approving the draft initial study and mitigated negative declaration for Rancho Vista subdivision to change the urban growth boundary and land use designation of the area from agriculture to low density residential and recommend to council the same. And then amending urban growth boundary and land use designation of the 1998 general plan of 40 acres, or sorry, it's 28.3 acres in the north portion of the city and recommend to council the same.
And also the Leal. Oh, but that's not a special.
No,
Yeah.
that's, yeah.
Okay, let me call you tomorrow.
Okay.
Time to look into that.
Yeah, let us know and we can re-advertise it and I can, we can continue the regular meeting for Leal because I don't think anybody has conflict of interest there. And the vice chair, Dave, can run it and, you know.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, before we go on, and it's kind of related to this, I think,
We can vote
what's
on it.
coming up next, I went on the City of San Juan Bautista City of History website today, and then there's a, however I got here, it says latest public hearing notice. And then it says notice of public hearing for Hacienda de Leal, December 2nd, 2014. And then a description follows talking about the 11.7 acres east of First Street. That was confusing to me to how this particular website is organized. It seems to me there should be a line or numbering for each separate issue. The description below the Hacienda de Leal is about 11 acres. I thought, oh my goodness.
Oh, that
This-
looks like it's a
this is
hot link.
already-
So it's a hot
This
link.
has already
We
been
need
addressed.
to
I talked to Connie today.
look at this so that it tells the public what we're doing and not make them guess or turn it into gossip.
Well, before that top line was put in, it did make sense. It was description links, description links, description links. But then Connie just put that up top. So tomorrow I'll be giving her a short description of the Leal hearing, and then that will follow it. And we're going to put lines in between each one of
Put
those things.
boxes
So
or something.
that'll all take place in the next couple of days.
And the fact that, I mean, I don't even know what date this was posted, that would help. We took care, I hope, the initial study negative declaration for 11.7 acres, we already took care of that,
Must be yours 'cause I
et
can't
cetera.
find it.
It's a work in progress.
I understand that, I understand Connie's newness at this, however, it was alarming to me.
Can't have it.
We're struggling for communication here, and it is not easy.
Okay.
And then the very last thing was Commissioner Medeiros' strategic plan committee report.
Oh, yes, we wanted that. We asked for that.
Yeah. So this is basically a condensed version of my notes from the meeting that he did. So the meeting took place on October 14th, and quorum of 11 members were present, and John Freeman chaired it. The public comments at the beginning of the meeting, just a little bit of discussion about the open house at Luck Library, and they said that, you know, it was a decent turnout for minimal advertising. And then all of the subcommittees gave their reports. A couple of highlights. The Land Use, Agriculture, and Environment Committee talked about their reviewed goals and objectives. They reviewed ideas for parking, biking, walking, and roundabout at Alameda and 156 as far as things they supported. They were in support of light industrial development south of the 156 corridor, possibly putting a speed limit on 156 to reduce the speed, and water conservation and efficient landscaping. The Arts, Culture, Recreation, and Wellness Subcommittee, Teresa Lavanino and John Freeman presented to the school board, suggesting the name Alameda Cultural Park, Sports, Arts, and Natural Preserve at the San Juan School and adjacent soccer field with the following items discussed and reviewed. A wetland area, these are all just possibilities for the area. Wetland area, walking trails, Teatro and Indian Market, Indian Burial Ground where school board district write a letter to state before exploring funding, possibly building off of previous grants for parking and bathrooms, locations for possible exercise equipment, soccer fields and school campus improvements, possibly attaching it to the linear park described in the draft general plan, issues with taking the trail through state property and possibly connecting to the El Camino Real. Then the Business Development and Tourism Subcommittee, let's see, they did not officially meet, but local merchant meetings have been happening with the member of the SBC attending. SBC is looking for ways to get more connected with new business organization if one is established. And then the Government and Communications Subcommittee, the main thing was their San Juan Bautista Youth Commission, and they're going to be actually bringing that to you next month. So we've done a lot of research on a formal program ready for presentation to City Council as a resolution. It was moved and seconded that the San Juan Bautista Strategic Plan Committee submit a resolution to the San Juan Bautista City Council to form a San Juan Bautista Youth Commission with adult supervision. And then as far as other agenda items, Teresa Lavanino was talking about a fundraiser for tennis courts, but that already happened. So I think that was
Thank
it.
you. Any couple of comments on that? No?
Yeah.
Commissioner comments? Okay, future agenda items. Anything you want to see on the
Oh,
agenda?
my God.
No, not particularly.
Okay.
Just,
Comments, commissioners? City manager?
I want to thank all the folks who are
Oh.
here tonight who came and stayed through the whole thing.
Thank you. City manager?
Would you like a status report back about the Castaneda house, just so that, like, about the letter and everything and the
Yeah,
appeal
that's what
process and
happened.
everything, just so
Right.
that, to follow up?
good.
That'd be good.
And we should have an update next meeting too for the brewery. Because we haven't got our plans for landscaping or any of that stuff yet. They're doing the
Yeah.
parking lot and lighting.
Finally doing something.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a question. What's happening with that long building that used, well, that's kind of between Monterey and McCollum? It was the
Island?
pottery?
Pottery,
Yeah, San Juan Pottery?
Pottery,
Yeah.
They-
lumber yard.
They had a sewer problem there, and we had to dig up and redo a sewer lateral, and that goes off on Monterey Street.
But
And I think they moved in, and somebody's living in the back there.
what's the ditch for? It's open.
The ditch was, they got a lot of water coming in, down into the building, and so they dug that ditch, and they're gonna put that rock in there.
Oh,
It's
for
gonna
a
be
leach,
a separate ditch,
leach line?
yeah.
And the building will be used for housing or?
The back portion is housing, and they wanna rent the front house out for commercial.
Okay.
They've made application or it's just
No.
happening?
No application for commercial.
It's my understanding there'll be some kind of police report related to that?
And then one other one, the Larry Kane project, I see they finally cleaning that mess up down there. Huh?
The council issued an abatement order, and I think it's due at the 18th. Yeah, right, and he's making effort and got the boat out of there, and the tenant, and they're cleaning it up. There's still a lot of trash in there. I took pictures this morning of it, but he's making a concerted effort to clean it up.
So anybody that moves in there now has to come back in front of the historical board and the planning commission?
Yeah, exactly, that is a mixed use, it's in the historical district, and what we want to do is we're going to put a notice on there that nobody can occupy until it comes back and they submit plans.
Brought up to
Yeah.
code?
Good. One lot at a time.
Is Mr. McAllister ever coming back with a real application?
Canvas, yeah.
McCandless, yeah.
McCandless, why do I do that?
He called and said that he was gonna work on something, but he hasn't got back to us. I'll touch base with him and find out what his thing is. He did say that he wanted to finish boarding off the back so that he could have secure for the tenants that are in there.
And is it one legal parcel? The whole thing, or it's
One
two?
legal parcel.
Yeah.
Just that burned, or the whole?
The whole thing, one parcel.
The Adobe,
All the way to
the
mom and
whole
pops.
one legal parcel, not mom and pop?
All the way back to Medina is one parcel.
Yeah.
And mom and pops included.
With an easement through the corner lot for access and
And
egress.
one other question, our gas station, do you have a lawsuit?
The lawsuit not for the gas station, but for the formula business, the formula ordinance was rescinded, and then we settled with the law firm and settled that lawsuit. The appeal to the ARCO station is still being activated, and that appeal hearing is going to be November the 18th.
Wow.
That's all I got.
Yes.
Okay. This is in regard to the brewery, and it's kind of hearsay, but somebody that we work with sometimes says that the little house on the lot, you know, where the parking is going in, is going to be torn down tomorrow.
That is correct.
And apparently the contractor, whoever's doing that, it has siding and materials that could be recycled. So if anybody's interested in these recycled materials, apparently they are being made available.
Thank you.
Thank you for
I
that.
actually saw a man walking on that roof today.
Okay, with no further business then, well, Matt, did you want to say anything?
No? Yeah.
Okay, with no further business, entertain a motion for adjournment. Does not require a vote, or a roll call vote.
I move that we adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Second?
What if we
Favor?
didn't make a vote? Would we just,
Oh, all in favor?
Hi.
aye.
Opposed? Good,
Too
let's
tired
go.
to talk.